How's it going, everyone? My name's Connor. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a professional film prop maker with a long history in the film industry. For a little over 9 years, I was a professional stuntman and parkour athlete. Reality TV star. Former American Ninja Warrior. And at one point, even a dating show contestant. But one of my proudest accomplishments was working as a film prop maker for Legacy Effects. I learned a lot about the prop making process at Legacy and got to work on some amazing things. My favorite things I had the privilege of working on was Star Wars shows like Mandalorian and Marvel movies like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. After 5 years of living in Los Angeles, I decided to fly back to my hometown in Florida and start my own prop making studio and workshop, where I've been able to take what I learned from Legacy Effects and apply it to my own projects. So where does Oblivion come into this? When I was a kid, I pretty much exclusively played Halo Combat Evolved, but when I was about 15, Oblivion released on Xbox, and I was immediately hooked. Every day after school, I would just get absolutely lost in this world, and like many of you, I grew up playing this game and have tons of nostalgia surrounding it. One of the most iconic and memorable suits of armor from that game were the Imperial City Guards with their Imperial Legion armor. I always wanted a suit of this armor when I was a kid. And now as an adult who can actually make these kind of things, and with the release of the Oblivion Remaster, I've been inspired to take on this challenge and make the entire suit. The first step was to crack into the game files and extract the 3D models. This took a little trial and error, but after a while, I got it. Now that I had the files in hand, I knew they were going to require some cleanup and some repairs, because typically the raw files extracted from the game are in a broken state and are unusable. And this is due to none of the faces actually being connected to each other and being what's called non-manifold. And if an object is non-manifold, then it's not an actual solid object, it's just a bunch of faces. But long story short, your printer can't print it. As it stands, my plan for this build is to 3D print all the pieces on the large format resin 3D printer to print each of the armor segments in what's known as a vacuforming buck. The buck is placed on the vacuformer, and then the hot plastic is draped across the top and all the air is vacuumed out, giving you a perfect duplication of your buck. These are what I'll cut out and use as my actual armor pieces. You typically see this done with Mandalorian and Stormtrooper builds. However, as I'm going through the process, this may change as it typically does.
The missions change. They always do.
Some of the pieces may end up being better to mold and cast instead of vacuform, which is what I'm going to end up doing with the helmet anyways. After running all the models through 3D Builder to repair them, which took forever, I then went ahead and imported them into a software called Mesh Mixer. Using Mesh Mixer, I can actually cut 3D models and alter their geometry in mesh. So I can take the armor and cut it up into pieces for my bucks. Like for the chest, I'm going to separate the back and the front to make 2 separate plates. As you can see, the model has some really rough geometry and has a lot of edges where the surface is supposed to be smooth. Using the sculpting tool, I can actually go ahead and smooth this out a little bit, and anything I can't get with the software, I can smooth out with sandpaper. I also cut out all the armor plates from the legs and arms and use the same cutting and smoothing process to create bucks. And here's some footage of that entire process. I also wanted to resin print the belt buckle separate so I can capture some of that detail of the Imperial insignia. And as for the large leather portion underneath the belt, I had a cool idea to mold and cast that separately and cast it in a brown foam. That way it looks like leather. And then I would put a real leather belt over that to mimic the appearance in the game and also be a little comfortable. Now that all the models have been repaired, cut, and smoothed out and turned into printable bucks, I then brought them over to a software called ArmorSmith. ArmorSmith is fantastic for scaling your armor, as it lets you apply each part to a mannequin dummy, and you can actually adjust the dimensions of the dummy to match your dimensions of your body. That way, if each part fits the dummy properly, you know that they're going to come off the printer at the right size. While I was working on all this, Bethesda and Virtuos shadow dropped the Oblivion Remaster. Like, it released. This was fantastic because I was able to take a closer look at the newer version of the Imperial armor, which is the one I'm trying to emulate with this build. And upon a closer look, I was able to see that there actually are some small changes, predominantly in the shoulders. The shoulder pads of my 3D models go straight out from the neck portion, but the shoulders on the new remastered version have the points that protect the neck that go straight up, and the actual pauldron that covers the shoulder wraps downward around the shoulder, unlike my files. So I could spend all day 3D modeling this and making it perfect, but instead I just went to Fiverr and found this person who specializes in 3D modeling printable armor parts. I sent them the references and told them to model this for me. So I'll be waiting for that to come in. Another change that I noticed is the original Imperial armor from the original Oblivion had a heavily rusted, pitted look. However, in the new version, it looks more like polished steel that's got heavy rust in the corners and on the surface. So I think I'm going to go ahead and replicate the new version, as once again, that's the version we're trying to emulate. Also, I have two versions of this helmet, the regular and the Mohawked Horseman version. I'm kind of leaning towards the regular because it's got that iconic look, but the Mohawk on the Horseman is kind of badass. So you guys let me know in the comments which one you think I should make, and who knows, I don't know, maybe I'll make both. And that was another big change I noticed. In the original, the Mohawk on the Horseman helmet was brown, and in the new one it's got this nice red Mohawk, which is very Spartan looking. But like I said, you let me know in the comments which one you think I should make. So now that we have our files fully repaired, scaled, and ready to go for printing, that means the concepting virtual part of this build is done. So in part 2 of this series, we're going to start the physical stuff. We'll begin printing and body shopping all of these bucks and getting them ready for vacuforming. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the Oblivion Remaster, as I know I am, and I'll see you guys on the next one.